What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulWrestling.com, FightfulMMA.com, and Fightful.com. This weekend sees a huge UFC 244 show headlined by Masvidal versus Diaz for the BMF Championship. Here to do a little bit of a preview of the betting odds of this show, and we'll make some predictions here. I will be live on youtube.com/Fightful right after the show. I will also post that podcast over here on the MMA channel as well. But let's go ahead and talk about UFC 244. I was on the media call on Monday, was able to talk to Masvidal. Diaz only really fielded like 3 or 4 questions and kind of talked through the duration of the time. He had a lot of stuff to get off his chest. But you have Hakeem Dawodu, -130 against Julio Arce, a +110. I like that fight, as I do the Lyman Good, -125 against Chance Rencounter fight. These are a couple of good fights, pretty early on the show. Not a ton of name value there, although Lyman Good did win a Bellator championship, still not like a high-profile fight. Caitlin Chookagian is a -155 over Jennifer Maia at +135. Chookagian is a woman who was just right there in the title picture and really, really close to it. But unfortunately for her, lost to Jessica Ai and was able to rebound and beat Joanne Calderwood. I don't think she's that far away from a title opportunity, but considering how she fights, I think that the UFC would... I say they would probably rather have Jennifer Maia, but the thing is, since Jennifer Maia reached the top levels of Invicta, she's also into the scorecards every single time out. The difference is that Maia has had some trouble making weight, as we saw against Roxanne Modafferi, and during her Invicta championship run, had outstanding fights at the nights and performance of the nights and things of that nature. I'm picking Chookagian to win this, but I get the feeling that Maia, or the UFC wants Maia to win. I have Good and Dawodu winning the early fights. You also have Jair Rosenstruck against Andrei Arlovski. Andrei Arlovski just keeps hanging around, man. And do I think that Rosenstruck's going to beat him? Yeah, probably. Do I put it past Arlovski to win this? No, I don't. I think he's still got 2 or 3 more losses in him before the UFC even thinks about cutting him. Arlovski's a +125. Rosenstruck is a -145. And that's a pretty generous line for Arlovski. We have Brad Tavares, a +105 underdog against Edmund Shabazian. You have Makwan Amirkhani, a +210 against the -250 Shane Burgos. Now, I remember a time it doesn't even seem that long ago, but it was 2015 when Makwan Amirkhani was an amazing prospect after that 8-second knockout of Andy Ogle. And then he came back and he beat Mike Wilkinson in I think it was a 3-round fight. But before that, he had beaten Fulton in under 2 minutes and then lost to Arnold Allen. But the guy's 5-1 in the UFC. The only problem is he never fights. This will be his first time fighting more than once in a year since 2015. He's had a couple of performances of the nights and has looked really good and really strong. And this is a really underrated fight. This is a fight between a couple of guys who are both 5-1 in the UFC, both have really good performances, both can be exciting. I don't think that line is quite appropriate. I think I would have it a little bit closer for Makwan Amirkhani. Do I think that Burgos will win? Yeah, I kind of do, but Makwan Amirkhani is a little bit better than that +210 indicates. I'm shocked that Johnny Walker, -150, and Corey Anderson, a +130, is on the prelims. Shocked, but this main card is pretty good. You got to go with the momentum of Johnny Walker here. You don't have to. Corey Anderson's really good. Like, this isn't just like some guy that they're giving Johnny Walker for him to roll over. This is Corey freaking Anderson, man. He's won 3 in a row, and at a time just 2 years ago. 2 years ago this week, he had lost to Ovent St. Preux, and it looked like he was done at the top levels of the light heavyweight division. He had lost 3 of 4 fights against some top-level guys in OSP, Jimmy Manuwa, and Shogun. However, he was able to reel off decision wins over Pat Cummins, Glover Teixeira, Ilir Latifi, and a decision win over Glover Teixeira and Ilir Latifi. Man, even in 2018, were exceptional. And now he's facing Johnny Walker, who we've seen has some just amazing striking. And do I think that Johnny Walker will be able to do the types of things to Corey Anderson that he could against Ledet or Roundtree or even Serkinov? No, not necessarily. I don't think he's going to get put away in under 45 seconds, but we're talking about a guy who's 4-0 in the UFC if you include Contender Series, 3 Performance of the Nights, all in under 2 minutes, and Misha Serkinov is good. Khalil Roundtree is pretty good these days. I got to go with the hot hand, Johnny Walker, and if he wins this, then he's 4-0 in under a year in the UFC. That's an exceptional opening year in the UFC, and you got to kind of look at things and say, man, Johnny Walker's probably getting that title shot, even over Dom Reyes, if he wins this fight and does it convincingly. Kevin Lee, back at lightweight against Gregor Gillespie. Man, they are not giving him any easy outs here. He got to that championship level, and he's facing a tough guy in Gregor Gillespie. The odds makers, or not the odds makers, the bettors have it at minus 165 for Gillespie, plus 145 Kevin Lee. The thing about Gillespie is he's got the ability to ride you out, and he's got the ability to finish you. And he usually finishes you by the end of the second. That's the way all of his UFC fights have went outside of his debut. He's beating progressively better fighters. Kevin Lee is the best fighter he's ever faced. But, I mean, he's finished Medeiros, Pichel, Rinaldi, Gonzalez, Holbrook, and kind of started slow and steady upon coming to the UFC. But he's in his territory. He's at home again. And this isn't the first time he fought in Utica. I want to say a year and a half ago in June. And he fought in Buffalo at the card that Fightful was out when he got the Performance of the Night bonus. And I mean, the guy's fought in Jersey a bunch too, so fighting in front of a hometown crowd isn't exactly anything new for him. Meanwhile, Kevin Lee, just 27 years old, and there was a point 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, even after the Ferguson fight, I thought he was one of the big future stars in MMA. Now, he beat Edson Barboza, and that's great, but man, he got jobbed out by Dos Anjos and Iaquinta and looked bad. Just looked bad, man. He has never seemed like he recovered fully from that Ferguson fight and the staph infection that came with it. I'm not saying that he didn't recover from the staph infection. I'm saying that maybe he didn't recover from the situation, because before that, I saw him as a guy that was, even after that, I saw him as a guy who was going to carry the division. Now I've got this at about 55% Gillespie, 45% Kevin Lee. Hard for me to bet against Gregor Gillespie there. Blagoy Ivanov, a minus 125 against Derek Lewis, a plus 105. Very rarely do I ever do an I got 5 on it for somebody who's a plus 105. But when you look at Derek Lewis, he's never out of a fight. He's never out of the fight. If he's sucking wind, he's doubling over. If he's like on his back, can't breathe, doesn't matter. The guy just finds a way to win. And Blagoy Ivanov is a guy who, despite being 2-1 in the UFC, hasn't quite, in my estimation, reached the levels in which he should. I thought he was a top-level talent when he came in off that insane World Series of Fighting run, and a very good Bellator run, too, to be honest with you. But Derek Lewis has seen better days. He hasn't won since the Volkov fight, but when I look at some of the guys he's beaten, like Ngannou and Volkov, I think both of those guys are better than Ivanov at this point. I think that both of those guys, when they got beat by Derek Lewis, were better. But the thing is, I don't know if Derek Lewis is still that good. And we've been seeing him get finished, man. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people try to ride him out and beat him via decision. That doesn't usually work. You beat Derek Lewis when you apply pressure to him. Look at Junior Dos Santos, Daniel Cormier, Mark Hunt, even Sean Jordan and Matt Mitrione. They pushed it. They pushed it. Not since early in Derek Lewis's career has just riding it out worked against him. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, minus 130. Vicente Luque, a plus 110. I think I got to go with Luque here. He is a much younger fighter. He's on a roll. He's won 6 in a row. I worry a little bit of the opposite. I worry if he pushes the pressure too much against Wonder Boy. I mean, he wrote out the decision against Mike Perry in a great fight of the night. That was an awesome fight. But Stephen Thompson is so much different. I hate that. I hate how generic it is. Oh, they've never fought anybody like me. But really, Luque hasn't fought anybody like Thompson. And Thompson's fought a lot of guys like Luque. I'm still going Luque here, and I'm a little bit surprised that a guy who has one win in the last 3+ years, like Stephen Thompson, is given the edge here. And he beat Masvidal. That's nice. The win looks even better. But other than that, Thompson hasn't looked great. And the thing is, he hasn't looked like the guy that we saw in 2015 and 2016. I've got Vicente Luque for the upset here. Darren Till at plus 155 against Kelvin Gastelum at middleweight. Now, here's the thing. Both of these guys were big welterweights moving up. Gastelum has Till's kryptonite. Wrestling. I got to go with Kelvin Gastelum here. Darren Till's got to figure out a way to change the course of his career. 26 years old, and we're already looking at him losing back-to-back fights, and that ain't good. It feels like Tyron Woodley was 10 years ago. At least feels like it was 2 years ago. But that fight happened last September, and it's been a slow and steady decline since then. Losing to Masvidal, at least he got a bonus out of it, but I think that Gastelum has him here, and I think that Gastelum has the right tools to beat Darren Till. Masvidal a minus 165 over Nate Diaz a plus 145. This is for the BMF Championship. The Rock is supposed to be in the house. I like these lines right where they are. Pretty close in that regard. I think that Masvidal has what it takes to beat Diaz. These are two guys that you're probably not going to see go out there and wrestle, but if it ends up on the ground, you'll see some grappling exchanges. Masvidal, I think, has more power. I think that, I don't want to say that Nate Diaz's striking is more technical because it's not, but I feel like it's more applicable, if that makes any sense. His style is technical for him. It's not technical if you're going to walk into a kickboxing class tomorrow and see somebody teaching another person how to do kickboxing. That's not Nate or Nick Diaz's style. The way that they do things is they use tactics and angles and footwork and pressure in ways that are applicable and useful for their particular fight style. And that I appreciate. I look forward to seeing that all the time out of them. If you get backed up against the cage, against a Diaz, you better be ready to slug your way out. You better be ready to cover up and find an angle out of there, because that is a nightmare for anybody facing a Diaz brother. Now, this fight almost didn't happen because of the USADA situation, and I got to applaud Nate Diaz. I really do. Nate Diaz got flagged by USADA for an abnormal, atypical finding, and he is adamant. I don't take anything. I only take supplements. Said that USADA took $700 to $800 worth of supplements from him, and he had to go restock up. But that he didn't like this, and he wanted to make the UFC sweat and everybody else sweat and say that he didn't need to fight. He didn't need any of this. And there was a line that stuck out with me. He said, yeah, I'm going to make millions of dollars for this fight, but what does that mean if everybody thinks I'm a cheater? I have to sleep with that at night. And when you think of the stuff that Nate Diaz has been involved in, like the Strikeforce brawl and like him and McGregor and all their stuff, and it's like, this guy's legacy is important to him. And he could have taken the easy route and followed the trend of a lot of his teammates like Melendez and Shields and done PEDs. I don't believe that this guy's on PEDs. And I admire the fact that he's willing to take a stand like that and say, no, I didn't. And not only didn't I, you're going to tell everybody I didn't, or I'm not doing this fight. Do I think that Nate Diaz is difficult to deal with in a lot of situations? Yeah, I do. I think that he always looks out for number one and his legacy. And those are the two most important things to him. And there are some, like when he said that the UFC tried to loophole him back in and say, oh, fight your way back up. I don't blame the UFC for saying that after he lost to McGregor. I'm okay with that. Like, it doesn't bother me at all that they wanted him to fight his way back up. Because him fighting his way back up was probably him fighting a guy like Tony Ferguson or somebody like that. But I also understand that he was, at that point, he had beaten Michael Johnson and Conor McGregor and all that stuff, but he took 3 years off, and 3 prime years at that. Like 31, 32, and 33 are 3 crazy years to miss, man. Those are money-making years, but I think he understands that he's going to be able to make money no matter what. And good on Masvidal for getting the opportunity to make this money now. He flattens Ben Askren, and he's ready. And he flattens Darren Till, and he's ready. Keep in mind, this guy didn't fight at all in 2018. Didn't fight at all. Lost the title eliminator to Damian Maia. Lost to Stephen Thompson. Wasn't looking great. Came back, won $100,000 for the Darren Till fight in England. Came back just a couple months later, destroyed Ben Askren. Made $50,000 off of that. Just off the knockout, by the way. Because his guaranteed payout was $200,000. So we know that the guy has made $350 just off of Performance of the Nights, and probably closer to $550 in disclosed payouts and all that, plus the Reebok money. He's making bank for this fight, and he should. And he should. Reminder, guys, I will be here Saturday. Fightful.com. Make sure you guys tune in. Leave us a thumbs up. Help us battle the trolls. Subscribe. We're out.